Love is a high-risk behavior. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast, High Risk for Heartbreak. I am your host, Christina, and I'm so glad you decided to join me today. If it is your first time here, I want to thank you for stopping by. What a beautiful time to come. Merry Christmas to you, and I pray that you guys had a fantastic holiday season. I have been doing a lot of heart conditioning this year, and that just seems to be the theme. I think it's more of a reflective theme than it was like a projection type of theme for me. I just realized that God has definitely been trying to excavate some things out of me and refine some things as well. So this year's been very interesting, full of a lot of learning and a lot of heartache about myself and others. Relationships changing, just so much. If you guys were here on my first season, you will know I had this disclaimer at the top of every episode that basically talked about how this is not a space where I'm coming to you as a relationship guru, as a therapist, as someone that has had the utmost success in their relationships and can now advise you on how to do the same. That's not what this space is. This space is very much a lived and learned experience and lateral sharing. And while I don't have that disclaimer anymore for the second season, that's something if you want to hear it. I mean, it's just at the top of every episode. It's not really a big deal, but the whole point of that was to make sure that people understood that lateral sharing is just as valuable. Testimony is just as valuable. Experiences lived is just as valuable. Not equally the same value add, but just as valuable as having a therapist or a counselor, someone to speak to that can advise you in your relationships. I just want you to know that I hold your testimony and your story to the same value that I hold mine. And I think that's really important because we are all living here trying to figure out how to do this life. And literally none of us are experts as much as we like to think that we are. Sure, we can be studied and we can discover and we can share from those discoveries, some of them scientific, some of them spiritual, some of them theological. And we can absolutely make very absolute claims about them. This is, for me at least, is exploration and conjecture, and I think it is valuable. I think that is very valuable to the human experience, is being able to share your lived experience. So having said that, I am in a bit of a space today because I am currently navigating the very thing that I'm going to be talking to you guys about. And I didn't suspect that I would be, but it seems that God has been informing me through the writing and also convicting me personally to make sure that I'm doing the work. You know, that's what being a constant student brings about, is these moments where you're at the front of the class and you know the answers. And then other times when you're at the board and you have no idea what the teacher's asking you to do. And you have to just be ready to be the student. And so I'm very much there. I'm feeling highly emotional today. And, you know, that's not the only thing that I feel, but we're going to move through this the best way that we can. And I pray that you guys want to take this journey with me as well. This particular series that we're going to be doing over the next 8 days, I think it's 8 days or 9 days, is a mini series on creating the space for the gift of love. As we are in the highest gift giving season of the year, there's a lot of tangible gifts being exchanged. And one of the things that we don't often think about is the things that we receive throughout the year in the midst of our relationships as being gifts, even heartbreak. If you've been with me any amount of episodes, you will know that I view being high risk for heartbreak to be very valuable to the human experience. And it has to exist if we're ever going to understand that the other side of that, the greener side that we think of, living in fully fulfilled, fully vulnerable relationships, is also a thing. What I'm trying to say is that heartbreak is necessary and we try to avoid it, but it's unavoidable. It's unavoidable. People give us the gift all the time, even when we don't want it. So let's explore how we are going to get our hearts in a conditioned place where we can create space for the gift of love. During the holiday season, many spend their last to make sure those that they love feel the love from them through the medium of gift giving. People are most charitable, honestly, during the last season of the year. And in fact, December 31st, I learned recently, is the highest charitable giving day before the new year. Some, of course, are giving because they love people. And then we have others who are giving because they have too much and they need to give. People are giving nonetheless, though, and many of us, if not all of us, have been on the receiving end of someone who loves giving to us. The end of the year is not the only time, of course, that people find it in their hearts to give. They also love to celebrate other arbitrary holidays, like a birthday, and they do celebrate us through gift giving in that time. Those gifts, of course, are highly significant because you are often the birthday girl or birthday boy, are often the only one, and you're not sharing this holiday with anyone else. So the gifts are particularly significant then. It's all about you on that day. And listen, all of that is nice and it's beautiful and it's good. But what about those unexpected gifts that we don't want? The ones that don't necessarily match our style or our steez or seem maybe like an afterthought. They have no significance or attachment to a holiday. There are many gifts that we have received throughout the years that we hold on to, despite them not being something that we want or need. It seems counterintuitive to say, but there is a gift in everything under the sun. There's something to acquire, be it physical, spiritual, or on a soul level. And we all give and receive the gift of heartbreak. You can listen back on any of my episodes on this podcast, and you will definitely get a sense that I see being high risk for heartbreak as a gift. Being vulnerable in your safe and committed relationships is a gift. Being loved and giving love is one of the greatest gifts of life. Heartbreak, though, is an unwanted gift that all of us experience at one point or another in our lives. And for many of us, this gift takes up a lot of space in our hearts and our minds. This gift overshadows any other subsequent gift of love that is given. And it sort of tarnishes its validity and its purity like old cheap jewelry or something. It stains and it leaves remnants of all of the ill intentions heartbreak has to keep us from experiencing true, genuine care, love, and compassion from others. This gift, heartbreak, if left alone, if neglected, will reopen itself at every celebration that you have, and it will rob you of the new life and the new love in relationships with others. Over the course of these next coming days until the new year, I want to discuss how we can create the space and winter clean, so to speak, to receive the best gift ever shared between humans, the gift of love. Let's relate. I lived in New York for about 6.5 years of my life, and one thing that I had always looked forward to was the snow. Being a Florida girl, we didn't have any of that, okay? The last time I saw snow, I think I was 2 years old. I didn't even get to play in it, and I just had to watch my sister and brother playing in it outside in the backyard. I hadn't ever truly experienced the beautiful gift of snow after that until moving because I was raised in the tropics, so it was extremely endearing and amazing for me to witness my first snow as a freshman at my university that I attended. It was brilliant white. It was so pure. It fell so heavily. It looked so heavy, but it was like, but it's snow. How is it heavy? And the hills of the cascading hills that we had on our campus, it was just blanketed in snow. The cars and the roads were just snuggled up in these huge ice blankets of snow. My first time was beautiful, honestly. But very shortly after, I learned that if the weather warms up enough and the snow begins to melt, then it starts to look really different. So the ice starts to mix with the dirt, and then you have these sort of sloshy, dirty, muddy snow puddles. And then you go out for the first time and you're like, wow, this is cool, trudging through this beautiful, pure snow. And then you hit one of those puddles. And it's a very different experience. I had proper snow boots and used them religiously to get around campus so I wouldn't mess up my shoes. But no matter how much I tried, after trudging around campus all day, when I returned to my dorm, my boots were covered in mud. They were covered in slosh. And daily, the mud would just build upon itself and become hard like clay. Day after day, I had to clean my boots. And it wasn't so hard to get the mud off. You just use a little warm water, you start rinsing it, and it works out just fine. But it would get really caked up if you didn't pay attention to the crevices and the small places on the sole of your boot that help you get traction when you're walking. And tending to mud after a beautiful snow, I think, was the worst part. The salt residue was absolutely the worst part. Dealing with the remnants of something that seems so beautiful in the beginning, but then is like mud on your boots, was the worst part. Dealing with the remnants of heartbreak after something so beautiful and pure like the gift of love for you can be the worst part. And I think we can all agree to that. For many of us who have experienced snow, you can attest to cleaning off your boots being the worst part. And it's the worst part about that snowy winter season. Houses have these things called mud rooms for a reason. Mud, outside of being dirty, builds upon itself and it sticks to your boots, making it really hard to walk and to be untraceable. Have you ever tracked mud into the mud room of your house? Heartbreak is a lot like this. When you have walked into enough loving situations, you will begin to accumulate heartbreaks. Some are big. They come from big, huge puddles of mud. And then others of them are smaller, like the salt stains on your rubber boots. Those heartbreaks, they leave remnants and reminders of who has been with you and what they did to you. You have mud. If neglected by the end of the year or after years, if you're facing serious neglect of caring for yourself, those heartbreaks will seal themselves. They'll congeal, they'll seal themselves to you like mud on your winter boots. They just build and build and build upon you, weighing you down, leaving small trails of dirt everywhere you walk. They hinder your ability to keep traction in your future relationships. And the gift of heartbreak, if unattended to, can stain your ability to walk into other loving situations purely and with endearment. The reality is that many of us are living this way today. So before the year ends, we should take heart to identify those muddy spots, those clay clumps that are weighing our hearts down. And that's what we're going to do in this mini series. So today, let's just identify them. A few questions to explore this thought are, what are the heartbreaks that I'm still sincerely carrying with me? Those gifts of heartbreak that affect how you might view others who have nothing to do with them. Why are they still with you? A simple question with a less simple answer. Be honest with yourself about why you are still carrying these heartbreaks. Are they a means to protect yourself? Perhaps you use them to manipulate situations in your favor. Why do you carry these heartbreaks with you? The second question is, do you want to heal? One man was there who had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had already been there a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to be healed?" The sick man answered and said, "Sir, I have no one to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up, and while I'm going, another steps in down before me." Jesus said to him, "Get up, take up your bed and walk." And at once the man was healed, and he took up his bed and he walked. That's John 5. The man at the pool of Bethesda is probably one of my favorite stories from the Bible. It's such a good story on faith, but also such a good story on so many other non-virtuous characteristics that many of us have, like procrastination, like blame shifting, self-doubt. That man represents a lot of us. We will wait for 38 years for change, not realizing that our faith is the change. We will wait for someone to ask us if we want to be healed before asking ourselves the question. We will blame every outside force and others for not being better to us by helping us to our healing. And I think this is a true testament that true healing from heartbreak takes the Savior. It takes an actual miracle to get up and walk without that caked up mud of offense and of heartbreak to not weigh you down in your new relationships with others. It takes faith. Consider these things. Do you have mud on your heart? Until next time. Why don't you stay a little longer? You like what you like, right? Subscribe to the channel so we can spend a little more time together, and maybe comment your thoughts because I care what you're thinking. Love is the risk and the reward.